I was just finishing the construction of a ramp I built for my son, tightening the last bolts as the late sun dipped low across the street. My boy sat in his wheelchair nearby, his small hands resting on the armrests, his eyes following every move I made. For him, this ramp wasn't just wood and steel. It was independence. It was dignity. But before I could step back to admire the finished work, two police cruisers rolled slowly into my driveway. My stomach tightened. One officer got out and asked, "Sir, are you the one building this ramp without authorization?" And then I saw her. HOA President Linda, the neighborhood Karen. She was storming down the street like she was leading a parade. Head held high, lips curled in a smirk, certain she had caught me red-handed. Linda was the walking definition of arrogance, dumb rules, unnecessary fines, endless harassment. But with us, she was worse. She saw a black father with a disabled son, and in her eyes, we didn't belong. The HOA she ruled over wasn't just strict, it was racist, always targeting families like mine while ignoring everyone else. And now, she was bringing that hatred to my driveway. Before we continue, welcome to Voices Unchained, where real stories of resilience are told. If you stand against injustice, hit like, subscribe, and drop your location in the comments. We'd love to see how far these stories reach. But before I explain what happened with the police, you need to know why I built that ramp. A week earlier, after coming home from his therapy session, my son had looked away as I carried him up the stairs. He hated it. He didn't want to feel helpless. "Dad," he whispered, "I don't want to be carried anymore. I want to get inside by myself." Those words hit me hard. At just 9 years old, he already longed for independence, and I wasn't going to let him feel like a burden in his own home. I promised him right then, "I'll fix this. You're going to get inside on your own." That night, I sat at the kitchen counter sketching designs on scrap paper. I'm a civil engineer, so I knew exactly what kind of ramp he needed. Safe, sturdy, fully ADA compliant. Something built to last, not just a quick fix. At first, my son was nervous. He'd already seen Linda's antics with other neighbors. "What if we get in trouble?" he asked. I put a hand on his shoulder. "Son, nobody's going to stop me from making your life easier. This isn't just construction, it's kindness. And kindness doesn't need permission." That weekend, I bought supplies and got to work. A few neighbors even joined me, lending tools and helping measure. We poured the foundation, set the supports, laid the boards. My boy sat on the porch, smiling as the ramp came to life. That's when Linda walked up. "What are you doing?" she demanded. I answered plainly, "I'm building a ramp for my son." Her eyes narrowed. "No external structures are allowed without HOA approval. This is a violation of aesthetic standards." But I was ready. "I have a temporary city permit," I said firmly, "and ADA regulations override cosmetic HOA rules." She glared. Hours later, violation letters started stuffing my mailbox. Noise complaints, design complaints, even a bogus violation for non-approved color scheme. It was clear she wasn't just being picky, she was being racist and ableist. And now she'd called the cops on me. Back in my driveway, I took a deep breath and explained to the officers, "This ramp is for my son. I built it so he doesn't have to be carried up the stairs every day. I'm a licensed civil engineer, and this ramp is safe, sturdy, and fully ADA compliant." I pulled out the paperwork, permits, approvals, designs, and handed it to the officer. He flipped through the documents, nodding slowly. Then he looked up at me and said, "You've done everything right. Honestly, sir, this is admirable. Thank you for looking out for your son." He reached out and shook my hand. Linda's face turned crimson. "Are you serious? Look at it. It's ruining the neighborhood. People like him don't care about rules." The officer snapped his head toward her. "Ma'am, this man followed the law. What I see is a father providing for his child." His voice hardened. "And I'd advise you to watch your words. We both know what you meant by people like him." The second officer muttered under his breath, "This looks a lot like harassment." Linda stood frozen, humiliated in front of everyone watching. She had wanted the officers to shut me down. Instead, they'd exposed her racism for what it was. But Linda wasn't done. Flyers appeared at the community mailbox station announcing an urgent HOA meeting to review unauthorized construction affecting property values. She wasn't just after me. She was after my son's independence. That night, I wheeled my son down the brand new ramp myself to the clubhouse. The parking lot was packed. Inside, Linda was already at the front with a projector, clicking through slide after slide of my ramp from every angle, calling it an eyesore, unsafe, and a threat to neighborhood standards. When it came time for comments, my son raised his hand. His voice shook, but his words carried more weight than anything Linda had said. I just want to get into my house without my dad carrying me all the time. My dad built this ramp so I could be independent. If that's wrong, then maybe the rules are wrong. The room went silent. Then the clapping began. People stood. Even some who had been quiet under Linda's thumb started nodding. I stepped forward next. I laid down everything: my permits, ADA law excerpts, compliance letters, even timestamps and footage of her late-night inspections. Then I showed the bogus $2,500 fine demanding I tear the ramp down in 7 days. This, I said, holding up the fine, is harassment. This ramp isn't just legal, it's protected by federal law. Accessibility trumps cosmetic preference every single time. Neighbors fact-checked in real time, confirming what I said. One by one, people spoke up. Neighbors Linda had harassed for years. Stories of fines, intimidation, racist remarks, threats. It all came pouring out. Linda tried to argue, but her voice was drowned out. Her control was slipping. By the end of that meeting, the HOA board had no choice. A vote was called right then and there. The result was unanimous. Linda was immediately removed as HOA president. The neighborhood had turned against her, and my ramp still stood tall. The very next day, I presented my case to city officials. I showed them the same stack of evidence, and they didn't just back me. They launched an investigation into Linda and the HOA board. Years of racism, selective enforcement, and intimidation were finally under the spotlight. That was the beginning of her downfall, and through it all, the ramp still stood. Linda thought she could use her HOA power to break us. She thought racism, rules, and intimidation would silence us. But instead, she exposed herself. Because when a father makes a promise to his son, no Karen, no racist HOA, no cosmetic rulebook can stand in the way. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. More stories like this are on the way, right here on Voices Unchained.